My name's Mary Ann and welcome to the Wallflowers Kitchen. Today we're going to make 2 mixed olive bread. So we're going to make both black olives and green stuffed olives into bread. Now, I know when I see recipes, either be it in a magazine or on the internet, and it mentioned things like olives and stuff like that. And not a lot of people might have olives in the cupboards as a staple. And you might think, oh God, that's quite expensive. We managed to buy olives at such a good rate that we can eat them every day if we choose. If you were to go to Asda or your local superstore, you'll generally pay anywhere from £3 for a really small jar, which you won't get many in, or if you will, they're going to be a small size, of the green olives in particular I'm talking about at the moment, up to £6 and a hell of a lot more for a normal sized jar of olives, green stuffed olives. So what we do is we go to local catering company. We buy a catering size tin of green stuffed olives. They're stuffed with sun-dried tomatoes, absolutely beautiful. And we managed to get a tin of this size. They've gone up now, but we did manage to get this tin for £2. When I break that down into my recycled glass jars and I vacuum seal them in the canner, I managed to get approximately 7 jars. Now for the £2 this cost me, it means that my jar of sun-dried tomato stuffed green olives actually cost me just under 30p a jar. So compared to £6 and above, it's an absolutely wonderful saving. And if you have a canning machine, it's one of the best things you can do, because you can actually buy 2 or 3 of these tins and put enough away for a year. I should imagine the 7 jars that I did last of the green stuffed olives would last approximately 5, maybe 6 months, depending on how often we eat them. We're quite greedy with them really, and we like them quite often. I've actually found my son going to the fridge a couple of times and taking them out of the jar and put them in a bowl, and whilst he's waiting for something else to cook for his own tea, he'd be nibbling on the green stuffed olives, and I just stand back and it tickles me, you know. I'm glad he enjoys them, but if it wasn't for the canning process and being able to vacuum seal and put them away, there's no way I could afford to provide that snack for them, let alone the big treats that we make otherwise. So that's the story of the black olives, of the green olives. Now the scenario with the black olives is pretty similar, except the black olives cost £4, but we managed to get 15 jars out of them, so it still brings the cost down even further to an approximate cost of 26p per jar of black olives. Now before I started the canning process, we'd actually buy black olives all the time. It was a staple in the shop, and the cheapest, nicest tasting black olives we could find were just over £1 in Asda. So as I say, for nearly a quarter of the price, we can have double the stock now, so I'm really happy. So there's no excuse to say things like olives or different types of foods, you know, are out of our reach because of the cost range of the shops. Prepping, canning and putting food away and breaking it down into more serviceable sizes from the catering size cans is a bonus. You know, it just takes a little bit of planning. It's buying that machine, it's buying the tins in stock in bulk, and then having the time then to put it in the jars, to can it, and then to put it away. But if you do a comparison against going to the shops and spending out that excess money and working those extra hours to provide for it, yeah, it's a no-brainer really at the end of the day. Anyway, today when we're making olive bread. Again, another saver we do is we actually buy our flour in bulk. We actually buy these from Aldi Superstore, so it's £3.99 for a big massive bag of this one in particular, self-raising flour. We do it with the plain as well. So for this recipe we want 4 cups of self-raising flour, or as the Americans call it, self-rising flour. Now if you haven't got self-raising flour, just go ahead and still make it with your plain flour. I've made lots of bread in the past with plain flour. And you'll still get bread. So with this now, I want a teaspoon of salt. So I'll approximate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 twists on the salt shaker. And I'm going to put in a teaspoon of herbs. The teaspoon one doesn't actually fit in the jar, so I'm going to do 2 halves. And now the yeast. Shake the yeast in. And the water is warm, it's not hot, it's warm. So firstly, I'm going to add half a cup of warm water. And I'm going to bring it together with my spatula. And I'm going to add another full cup of the warm water. So that's 1.5 cups of warm water. This is the part when you're weighing up. How good can you stir it with the spatula before you have to actually get your hands in? And this recipe that I've seen done by others actually calls for garlic powder in the recipe. Now I don't actually have garlic powder, and I'm a firm believer in using what you have. So although I've made this today with olives and garlic, you can certainly make it with onions, leeks, anything else you choose to make the bread with, you know. So instead of the garlic powder, I've actually got one of the small garlics that I brought in recently that I grew. So at least there's one component of this recipe that I've actually grown in the garden, which I'm quite happy about. But I know everything else is a major saving, and the food itself is actually going to be really tasty, and my family will enjoy it. Be a big treat to have this tomorrow. I think we'll have it like bruschetta breads and have some nice tomatoes and peppers on it. So what I'm going to do at this point is shake the olives in. So that's both the green and the black olives in the bread. Let's give it a nice massage and incorporate into the bread. Oops. the olives. It's absolutely beautiful. You can see all the red flecks coming through in the bread from the sun and the dough from the sun-dried tomatoes. It'll just break down wonderfully. Oh, my hands. And I think at this point I'm absolutely just going to see if I can give it a bit of a dome shape and leave it to rise. Now this will have to rise for 2.5 hours. So I'm actually going to wrap it in some cling film. Not great, but it'll do for a minute. That will sit, as I say, for 2.5 hours, and then we shall come back and work out how we're going to bake it. Okay, so we ended up leaving it for about 12 hours, so it's totally proved. So what I've decided at this point is I'm not going to double proof it now. I'm not going to knead the life out of it and leave it for another hour. I'm just going to knock it into the centre a little bit and get it so I can get it out the pan, out the bowl. The pan I've just oiled and I've heated it in the oven for about 10 minutes, so it's a nice heat and it's thoroughly oiled. And what I'm going to do now is get the whole of the mixture out. It's still very sticky, but oh, it smells lovely still. Give it a bit of welly. Okay. I'm going to fit it to the dish. Try and get it as equal as I possibly can. Although we want it to be rustic, we don't want it to be mountainous on one side. I don't think that will pretty much level out with the heat. And in the oven we go. So we're going to bake that now for about 45 minutes. I'll come and check it in 45 minutes, see how it's getting along. I'm actually going to bake it in the middle of the oven rather than the top of the oven, because I don't just want the outside burning first. I want it all thoroughly cooked through and risen. Okay, so I'll come back and show you what that looks like. So we cooked it on gas mark 5 for 45 minutes. Took it out and it's ready. It's absolutely boiling, but I've managed to cut a slice off so you can see the different coloured olives and the flecks of red coming through. So I'll cut those in inch thick slices, and as I say, hopefully do some bruschetta bread, tomato, pepper style, salsa style topping, and we shall have that for the evening meal. I managed to make some tea cakes as well today, so whilst I was waiting for doughs and breads to rise, I took the time and made some tea cakes, so they'll be delicious for breakfast tomorrow morning. Nice bit of butter and some of the homemade black honey jam on those, and they'll be delicious. Well, of course, there was already more than those. My son's already had 3, so I've had the nod of approval. Yes, Mum, they're okay. Can't ask for more than that, can I? He's eating them. So yeah, have a go. Try and make yourself some interesting bread that you can actually turn into an evening meal, rather than just the standard sawdust bread they seem to offer us in the shop at the moment. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the recipe. Stick around, have a look at some of my other views, hopefully subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.